Welcome to Oops, I Dropped It channel. Normally it's for crazy kids movies, but I thought I'd hijack Sophia's and Magdalena's channel and show real quick the recipe for smoked pork roast. So the reason I'm doing this is I looked on YouTube a lot for different smoked pork roast, but the thing was all the recipes generally were for cooking it to like 140 degrees, and then you basically have a sliced pork. So outside of the smoke flavor, not much different than putting it in the oven. So I mean, pork roast in the oven is fantastic, and I just rather do it like that way. But how can we make this so that it's not basically a medium or medium well pork roast, and it actually tastes like barbecue and something you can eat. So this pork roast, the good thing about pork roast is it's pretty, in the scheme of things, pretty cheap. So this fairly substantial pork roast was $9, and you can see, like, people think of pork roast, it's all white meat, but it's got a good amount of dark meat on it as well. So the challenge here is you want nice, tender smoked pork, but you don't want it to be dried out either. So this is what I came up with, and this is the third time I'm doing it, so it turns out pretty well. So one thing I'm going to do with this is I'm going to slice it about 2/3 of the way through in slices. So if you ever get country spare ribs, a lot of times if you get it from the market or the butcher, you'll see it already has the slices in it. So I'm going to replicate that. So how thin you should slice it, I'm imagining for each one, like that would be a piece for someone. So you can go bigger, you can go smaller. I mean, I wouldn't recommend going too small because then you're going to deal with the dried out white meat. So I'm going to go about here. I don't know, it's probably about a little over an inch. And I'm going to cut down. So you can see there, that's probably about 3/4. And then I'm going to repeat that all the way down the roast. Okay, so you can kind of see what we have here. Look underneath. So this is trimmed pretty well. Sometimes it has a big piece of fat across the bottom, but even with that, I might be tempted not to trim it very much. So the thing that I've been doing with anything that I smoke is dry brining it with salt. So that's a shout out to Google Foods. He's Mr. Dry Brine in my mind. So we're going to brine it with salt. We're going to put it in the fridge, and we're going to keep it in there overnight. And it's almost like it turns into like a semi-salt cure. So I have some kosher salt, and I'm going to sprinkle it on top. Now I've kind of dealt with in a way that there's, oversalted anything is generally not good, and I feel like at times I have oversalted it, but in the end, like it kind of can't be oversalted. So I wouldn't go completely nuts, but you can see I have a good amount of salt in here. So all this salt is going down between the slices. Rub it in. My wife is going to assist here and put some on more. So we're completely covered with salt. I can feel the grittiness in it and everything else. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to put it on a rack here, over here, and we're going to put it in the fridge like this overnight. Okay, so the reason I have it on the rack is so the air can circulate around it and that the pork isn't sitting into its juices. So put it in the fridge overnight, and then we'll continue tomorrow. So welcome back to the next morning, and I just got it out of the fridge, and it might be hard to tell in the video, but like the meat has taken on a noticeably darker shade as the salt has penetrated in there. So this looks exactly what I want it to look like. See, it kind of also opened up a little bit as the salt penetrated and it dried some of the edges here. It's about 9 o'clock. I'm gonna put on, I'm gonna start smoking about noon, so it's about 3 hours out. How far out, I don't think it matters that much, but we're gonna put on a dry rub. I like these McCormick pre-mixed. The sweet and smoky one is probably my favorite out of the bunch, but there's like, 3 or 4 different flavors that are all great. The one thing I'll say about this is because it's been brined and it's, the outside of it, it's not, it's not that wet. It's not going to hold the rub as well. So, I mean, you see in a lot of videos, people generally use binders to hold the rub on. I'm not going to do that because I just don't want to add any flavor that I don't necessarily want, and I haven't really played with it. But so we'll do the best we can. So, like I said, whatever rub you want to use. If you don't have a rub, I mean, all these are basically all variations of the same thing where you have salt, pepper, sugar, paprika, garlic, onion powder, all those kinds of spices. And if you all mix them together and put it on, you really can't go wrong. Flip it over here. And you can see, like on the back here, how nice we got this deep red on here. So it's almost starting to look a little bit like bacon. Okay. Pick up some of this. Don't waste anything. Okay. And that's about it. I might touch it up a little bit with the dry rub after when I'm getting ready to put it into the smoker, but for now, back into the fridge, and like I said, we'll get the smoker fired up shortly before we're going to put it on, but we're going to sit in the fridge for another couple hours. So the smoker is preheated and ready to go. Generally under 250, 225 is probably good temperature. I've gone lower than that, it just takes longer because I'm not going to really cook the time, I'm going to cook the temperature. So I'm going to put my probe in the medius part here. And I'm going to keep it uncovered until it reaches 145 degrees, which is about the right temperature if you're just having a pork roast. That's kind of a medium temperature. So you notice too, I also put a skewer through here to hold the slices together. I don't want them to fall open, and then if you have a piece hanging out, it's obviously going to get very hot and very dry. So we're going to pop this in the smoker. And we'll keep an eye on the temperature. My guess is probably about 3 hours. All right, and then we'll take a look at it after that. Okay, so the pork is getting pretty close temperature-wise. So we're gonna wrap it here shortly, and then I'm gonna put some sauce in here with the in the foil with the pork to keep it nice and moist, give it a little bit more flavor. So I spared you putting some honey in here because it's a little bit dried out and it was hard to get out. So I'm gonna put a little bit, I don't measure any of this. And then apple cider vinegar, a little bit. And remember, whatever you put in here, it's gonna have to hold inside the foil, and then there's still gonna be juices from the pork. So you don't really wanna put too much. I'm add some barbecue sauce. This is our favorite Sweet Baby Ray's. And then I'm gonna put about a teaspoon of butter in here too to add some extra fat. So if you look here, and what I'm gonna do too is before I put it on the pork, I'm gonna microwave it. Like, it's always best not to put something cold on something hot. It will drop the temperature. So we'll see you in a little bit outside to wrap the pork. Okay, so we're at 140, but I'm getting a little bit impatient, so we're gonna take it out. wrap it. So I'm going to take the skewer out. We don't need this in here anymore. Here. And then our sauce here we're going to put over. Go leave the probe in there, and then we're going to leave it in here until it gets to 180 degrees. So we're going to go back inside, and we'll see you when it gets to that temperature. Okay, so now we're like stalled at about 175, but like let's just see what we got here. So looks pretty good. Actually, the I had a leak in the foil, so some of the juice came out. So we'll see how that turns out in the end. But I'm gonna put some barbecue sauce on this now, and then I'm gonna put it back in for 45 minutes, probably. I have to see how it looks, but roughly 45 minutes. And this is just to let all the sauce caramelize on the pork. Okay, so we're coming out of the foil and back into the smoker. Okay. All right, we're almost there. Okay, so we have it off the smoker, and it looks pretty good. So we're gonna slice it here. And if you look here, this looks pretty nice. Okay, now I have my tester, Sophia, to give it a try. And she always gives me an honest opinion.
Good.
How good? Out of 10?
8.
8 out of 10? Okay, we'll take it.
We've done better.
Oh, I've done better? Okay, well, thanks everybody for watching, and hopefully we'll post something soon.